Okay, here we are then, ready for another interview. Here we've got Simon Gray, and he's going to be talking about his book, all about the Senshusei course that he did in Japan, as well as some life lessons that I'm sure he learned there. So we're going to talk mainly about that, I think, today. I finished it today, or I finished it
Oh, you
yesterday,
finished it?
sorry.
Ah, good
It's
man, good
all
man.
done now. I smashed through it. It was a
Good,
good page turner. I couldn't really put it down, to be honest. So
good,
yeah, it was
good.
really good.
Uh,
So just for people that don't know you then, I'm sure most people in the Aikido world know you. And as well as kind of Muay Thai, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu,
yes, yeah.
you've had a really good history in the martial arts. So just for anyone that doesn't know you, do you want to give yourself a little introduction?
Yeah, so my name's Simon Gray. I've had quite a long career in martial arts. Started out in martial arts probably when I was 16, Lao Kung Fu, then went into Muay Thai for probably about 25 years. I used to travel up to Manchester to train up there. Had some fights, then discovered Aikido. Always been interested in Aikido in the background. Discovered Aikido, crazy dream to go to Japan. Sold my house, sold my car, got on a plane, got to Japan, did the Senshusei course, came back from Japan. Since then, I've spent most of my martial arts time doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So kind of packaged the whole thing together and lots of different experiences from all over the world.
Fantastic. Okay, good. Let's talk about then briefly how you got started. Obviously, it's all in the book, so we don't want to give too much away because we want people to get the book. So
Yeah, sure.
it's very, very recommended by me. But yeah, how did you get started then, or why did you get started?
Yeah, I went to quite a tough school, and I got bullied at school. And this school was pretty. You read about it in the book, but it was pretty tough school. And there was one guy in the school that nobody picked on, and this guy was called Adrian. He's a guy that did kung fu. He had this private kung fu teacher, came to the school, taught him kung fu. Everyone was terrified of him. So I thought, when I left that school at 16, I thought, if I want to do anything in life, I want to learn what he already knew, which is how I got into martial arts. Started out in kung fu. Next to the kung fu school, in the recreation center where I trained, there was a Muay Thai school.
Okay.
So I kind of could hear the noise of kicking the pads and punching, kicking. And I thought, I'll go and investigate this Muay Thai because I wanted to do full contact. And that's how I got into Muay Thai. But basically, I got started in martial arts, probably very similar to a lot of people, bullied at school. I wanted to find out how to look after myself.
Perfect. Okay, good. Let's talk about your introduction to Aikido then, because obviously the book's mainly talking about the Senshusei course, the highs and the lows of that course, which we'll also introduce in a little bit. But yeah, why Aikido then? From quite a tough style, I suppose, where you said that you wanted to fight full contact. Muay Thai is probably one of the hardest styles of martial arts in terms of the training, the fighting, everything, you know. And then you go to a softer martial art, I suppose, in terms of Aikido that's often portrayed that way.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things happened. I don't know whether to say this, but I will say it. When I was growing up, I used to watch the Steven Seagal movies. I used to think, what's this guy doing? He was doing something that nobody else was doing. So I kind of knew what Aikido was. When I was very young, I did judo. I remember going as a kid to an Aikido class, not really understanding what it was all about, but seeing people flipping and getting thrown. So a couple of things happened. One night, I was going out for a few drinks in town with my mate. Came around to my flat, and he said to me, "Hey, I've started this martial art, Aikido." And I'm like, "Oh, I know a bit about Aikido." And he said, "Grab my wrist," and he did this thing. It was Tana Henko-ichi, I know now, and kind of pushed me and unbalanced me. And I thought that's quite interesting. So he persuaded me to go to the Shudokan in Nottingham, where I started going. He stopped training. I carried on and took it to the extreme, which is, I guess, kind of my personality, to take things to the extreme. So that was kind of the introduction. The other thing behind it, Muay Thai, you know, in Muay Thai terms, I was pretty old. I mean, I stopped training Muay Thai probably when I was 45. I'm 48 now. So I wanted to do something and find something that perhaps wasn't as difficult on my body, was less challenging on my body. And I thought Aikido might be the answer. Turned out I was wrong when I got to Japan. But at that time, I thought it might be the answer. So that's how I got into it.
Cool. And how long did you do it in Nottingham then? Because it was under Sensei Ken then, at the Shudokan. Because I think that's when we first met.
Yes, yeah, back in the day. So I started at the Shudokan with Sensei Ken, a couple of the other guys down there. Sensei Ken brought over a couple of guys from Poland, Sensei Seb, Sensei Michael, who brought a kind of different feeling to the school. Sensei Ken, great teacher, had a great time there, learned some incredible stuff. But these guys kind of opened my eyes to Japan and what might be going on in Japan. And I started to look. I read Angry White Pajamas, as I think everybody did. I read that Angry White Pajamas, and I thought, I'm going to investigate this Senshusei thing, and that's where that thing started. I got my black belt with Sensei Ken, but once I got my black belt in Nottingham, I kind of wanted to see what it might be like to get a black belt and have that experience in Japan. That's the course.
Yeah, cool. So do you want to give a quick summary then maybe of the course, the Senshusei course, that people aren't aware of, but it's often been hailed as probably the toughest martial arts course in the world?
Yeah, people say that. People say it's potentially the toughest martial arts course. I don't know whether that's the case. The thing with the Senshusei course, and this is probably something I didn't appreciate, it's the length of time that you're on it. I mean, you're on it for 11 months, and there are a few breaks here and there, but pretty much you're in it 11 months. Even when you're not at the dojo, mentally you're still there, so you don't get a lot of break. And I was doing the course, then I was teaching English for Berlitz, so it was a 24-hour type existence. Sure. The Senshusei course, does it make you good at Aikido? I'm not convinced it does. It was originally started linked to the Riot Police course. It was the international arm that was trying to get people to go over to Japan, have an experience, and then go and export Yoshinkan Aikido around the world. What's interesting about my year is probably the majority of the people that I did the course with no longer training Aikido.
Interesting.
It kind of defeats the purpose of what that course was really all about. But for me, the Senshusei course, it wasn't really about Aikido in the end. And I say this in the introduction to the book, that this book is not about martial arts. It is about martial arts, but I got something much deeper and much more important from the course. And I did the course 13 years ago. In deciding to write the book, I've contacted most of the people I did the course with, and interestingly, what they've told me is very much the same, that a lot of them don't do Aikido anymore, but what they got from the course was something much, much deeper.
Okay, fantastic. Good. Had you ever been to Japan before? Was that the first time when you went there? So it was truly a case of diving in with both feet and
I'll tell you what, I got on the plane. I'd been to Thailand. I trained in Thailand, Thai boxing. I've been there 4 or 5 times. So I kind of knew, the Asian culture a little bit. And I read a book called Culture Shock Japan before I went. And I remember in the front of this book, it said, remember in Japan, that Japan is not for you, it's for the Japanese. And that was kind of wow, okay. On the plane out there, I mean, I was pretty nervous. I was going to Japan, a strange country, for a long period of time. Potentially at that point, signing up for the course, I hadn't quite made up my mind whether to do. I was going to do the Ippan regular classes first. And I remember seeing on the plane, they played a video. It was on the TV on the back of the seat. It was Discovery Channel, and it was filmed in the Yoshinkan Hombu dojo. Okay. And some of the characters that I ended up meeting and training with were on that video, and it kind of just spurred me on. It gave me that encouragement that actually I can get to Japan, I can go to the Hombu dojo. All I've got to do is get there and find it, and then I can make the decision whether to do the course or not.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. What was the time then that you decided, yes, I'm going for it. I'm going to sign up. I've now committed the next year of my life towards the Senshusei course. Yeah. When was that?
That moment happened in Japan. Yeah. I was pretty serious about doing it. Otherwise I wouldn't have gone. But what happened on the mats in the Hombu dojo at Ochiai, you would have the Ippan, the regular students, at one side of the mats. And then the other side of the mats in the morning, the 8:30 class, you would see the Senshusei train. And the level of intensity, the shouting, the screaming, just the brutality of what they were doing. I was in the Ippan class, and I wasn't breaking a sweat. And I'm like, hang on, if I'm going to do Aikido, I've got to do that course, because I wasn't progressing fast enough. I didn't feel it was intense enough for me. I'd come from, Muay Thai. You go in the ring, you do 10 rounds on the pads. It's hard, and this didn't feel tough enough for me. So the Senshusei course, it was the thing. I read the Senshusei handbook, which they give you all this kind of list of stuff that you need to be prepared for. I'd read that before I went to Japan, and just reading that, I don't know whether, and I say this in the book, I don't know whether they wrote it to either encourage people to do the course or to dissuade them from doing the course, because some of the stuff in there, I mean, it's hilarious, some of the stuff that was in that handbook, which I share in the book. But it kind of spurred me on, and I thought, yeah, I want to see if I can do this. I want to see if I can get through 11 months of torment and come out smiling at the end. Decision was made.
It was done, yeah. So you said it's 11 months of torture. It's 11 months of really hard training.
Yes.
And it's designed really to, as you said produce black belts that would then go out internationally
Yes.
and teach. Yeah.
Yes. Correct.
So
yes.
it's an 11-month course. So do you think that it's possible to achieve a good level of Aikido, good enough to teach, good enough to become a black belt in that time period? Because it seems very short comparatively to, but the intensity of the training. So
yeah, it's all about the intensity, Dan. I mean, if you take somebody who's never done Aikido and throw them into the Senshusei course, as was a couple of people on my course, at the end of 12 months, are they ready to teach Aikido? Probably not. If you take somebody who's got a black belt in Aikido, put them on the Senshusei course, at the end of 12 months, are they a different student of Aikido, practitioner of Aikido at the end of that? Absolutely, most definitely. Because what the Yoshinkan Senshusei course gives you is rock solid foundations. And I'm a firm believer that you can look at somebody, you can walk into a dojo anywhere in the world, and you can look at somebody on the mats, and you can tell if that person has done the Senshusei course because of the detail. For example, we did one class, and it's in the book. I'll stop saying that in a minute, but it is in the book. Everything's in the book. We did a class where we had half an hour in kami on the right side, half an hour on the left side, and that was it for the hour's class. You know, we'd spend an hour doing, you know, seiza and standing up, back down, all the basics. And they taught me. I can't remember which sensei told me this. I think it was Chida Sensei. So that if you have a problem with your Jia-waza, you go back to your Kion Waza. If you have a problem with your Kion Waza, you go back to your Kion Dosa. Problem with that, kami. Problem with that, seiza. And I kind of got it. It's like building a house, different levels.
Sure.
So it gives you great basics and a really strong, solid foundation. But more than the physical aspects, what the Senshusei course gives you is a mental state that can withstand a hell of a lot, both on the mat and off the mat. And that was the real takeaway for me.
Do you think your training beforehand helped you in the Senshusei course, both in Muay Thai and also your background, if you already had a Shodan or a first degree black belt in Aikido? Do you think that helped, or was it kind of back to basics anyway? You know, it doesn't really matter at this point. Yeah,
I mean, I think I was pretty resilient on the course. I got injured quite a lot, but I knew how to take a beating. You know, if you've done Muay Thai for a long period of time, you're used to getting kicked, punched. I knew how to take a beating. Yeah. The Aikido stuff that I'd done with Sensei Ken, you know, we had some tough classes there. So I was kind of, my body was used to used to what the hard training might look like. So I guess I was probably more prepared than some. There were a few other people on the course that had done Aikido. Yeah. So I think it helped, but it was just a whole level of intensity, more than just the actual physical shapes and the movements that you did. It was the constant screaming, the shouting. It's just a constant pressure. You know, I've not been in the army, but I imagine on day one, when you sign up for the army or whatever else. In fact, my friend on the course, Ronan, been in the military, and he told me one day, you know, it's very much like that first induction into the military where people are screaming and shouting at you. And it's that confusion that you've got to get through and push on through. And that was a different level of intensity. It was such an intense environment, such an intense place, both the country and the training. Yeah, the whole package. Perfect. Good.
What was a typical day like then? So obviously you had training, but you were also working to obviously fund your stay there, fund your accommodation.
Correct. I was training all day. I was going to teach English at night. So typically I'd get up at 5:20 in the morning. I'd be on the train, I'd quit shower, I'd be on the train, get to the dojo for about 7. 7 o'clock, I'd be in cleaning. We'd have roll call, we'd have a morning meeting. We'd do the first 8:30 class, which was where the international instructors beat us, basically. And then we had the Japanese would teach us hour-and-a-half class, and then another hour-and-a-half class. But there was various bowing and ceremony and stuff that we had to do in between. I'd usually escape about 2 o'clock. And then at 2 o'clock, I would either go home, have a short rest, but usually I would head off to Berlitz to teach until about 10 o'clock at night, and then get the last train home. So it was a full on day.
Intense schedule to keep for 11 months.
Yeah. Luckily in Japan, they have these internet cafes. Okay. So what I used to do sometimes, they're not internet cafes like we have. In fact, I don't think we have them here. But what I do is I'd go to these internet cafes, and I get a booth. You get this private booth, and in Japan, technology, you get this massage chair, reclining chair, and I go and sleep for an hour before I had to go to Berlitz. That's how I had to do it, because sometimes you didn't have time to go home. So it was full on. full on. And that was, the dojo was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday and Monday. Sunday, the dojo was open, Sunday closed on Monday, and then it was back into it. But we had a whole host of other stuff that we'd have to do at the weekends. And yeah, you were never free, put it like that. Yeah, full on.
Let's talk about some of the stages then that the Senshusei go through. So it's broken into 4 stages. You had the 11 months.
Yes.
So Daiichi, Dai-Ni, Dai-san, Dai-yon.
Correct.
So
yes.
Dai-san is the black belt test. Is that correct?
Yeah, Shodan test. Yeah,
so,
that was the longest phase.
Yeah. So what was it like to be graded at the Yoshinkan Hombu Dojo in front of Kancho? Was it Inoue Kancho at that point?
For Shodan, it was definitely Inoue Kancho,
yeah.
Chida Sensei, Chino Sensei.
Yeah. Talk about Chino Sensei in a minute, I think.
Yeah, talk about him in a minute. Okay. When I got to Japan, I went on a Gashgo, a summer camp, just a 2 or 3 day thing. This was a Nippon student. And I remember going to that and just being in total awe of seeing Chida Sensei, Inoue Kancho, Takeno Sensei was there on the mats. And I was like, wow, I'm in Japan. And this is when I wrote Matt, who's in the book, my friend back at the Shudokan, a letter, and he decided to come and train. But another story if you want to ask me about. When you get into the Hombu environment, you're kind of a bit starstruck to begin with, because you've heard about all these people, but the more you get to know them, the more you realize they're just normal people, and the more you take it for granted that you're on the mats with these people. I mean, you know, Aikido gods, really, the most famous Aikido practitioners, aside from the founder and Kancho Gozo Shioda, probably, you know, Chida Sensei, Inoue Kancho. So it was surreal, but you know, they walk around with their clipboards, very similar to how we used to do it in England, and you just forget about it. You crack on. You're so well trained that you do stuff without thinking. Yeah. And I talk a bit about this in the book, that I had to drill it into my subconscious, because under the pressure of the exam, unless you knew it deep inside, you won't be able to perform. Mm-hmm. So it was all about drilling. But the Shodan phase, Dai-san, was that was like a long haul flight with no entertainment. Let me tell you, that was like I think 4 or 5 months of relentless training.
Just technique, like mock test. Just relentless. And we had various embus, you know, demonstrations that we had to do. You know, they were all consuming as well. The course was about withstanding not just the pain of hard training every day, but it was about the mental ability to withstand the monotony at times, because it was just relentless over and it was quite one of the challenges in writing the book was, if I did a diary of every single day, you get bored, because there's a lot of repetition. So what I've done is extract various different stories that illustrate a certain part of the course, and then told that story. So you are reading what pretty much in as much detail probably as ever has been written as to what that course is about, without realizing that you're necessarily on that chronological journey. It does go into a lot of detail in the course. So it does when you're writing it and you're reading it, and it feels like you're there, and it is, you can feel the pain that you're going through. And you can feel also some of your opinions on some of the teachers that you studied under. And it's clear from the book that you respect them all, but you have more of a respect for some than you do for others, perhaps.
Correct. And I think one of the reasons I've waited so long to write this book, I mean, lockdown, being locked up at home, that's been the perfect window to do this.
Catalyst.
That's been the catalyst, but there's probably been something delaying me doing it, because some of the stuff I write about, I know that some people are going to read and they're going to think, I don't agree with this guy, and that's fine. And what I say very much at the start of the book is, this was my experience. This was my experience at the time. It's not necessarily my view now, because what's in there is I'd train every day. I'd go home. I'd write a diary as I felt then in the moment. So it's unsanitized. It's true to how I felt. But to answer your question, yes, there were, for example, Chida Sensei, you know, Aikido God, I refer to him in the book as. I think he probably taught our Senshusei year 3 or 4 times in a whole year. Inoue Kancho taught us maybe once or twice. We'd see him on the mats, but we didn't see him that often. So you kind of try and emulate the teacher that you spend most time with, and that teacher was Chino Sensei. And I really liked his style of Aikido because I watched his. Yeah, just I mean the size of the guy, and the focus of him, it was incredible. And I was lucky enough to take some of his techniques. I mean, he had a reputation for destroying his okey. I've seen that happen in the dojo. I talk about that, tell some stories about that.
Definitely,
you know, a very, very skilled practitioner of Aikido. I felt his technique, and for somebody that small to generate such power and to be able to control a guy like me, 85 kilos or whatever I was, probably a bit lighter then, was just incredible. So he became the style of Aikido that I wanted to have. And I think very much at the Yoshinkan, there were two schools. There was the Chida school and there was the Chino school. And I don't think, I'll talk a bit about this, I don't think there was any love lost between those two camps. But I like people who are focused. I like people who are dedicated. And there's a story, I can tell you it now if you want me to tell you. It's a bit of a sneak.
I think this might be the one that I'm going to mention anyway that's in the book.
You're going to mention it? Okay, I've stolen your thunder.
That's good.
So as the Senshusei, we had to entertain the sensei at all of the parties, various different parties. I forget exactly which party it was, but one of the parties we did, I think it was before Christmas, we've got all the senseis lined up, they're eating, they're drinking, and Chino Sensei's not there. And we're like, where's Chino Sensei? We need to find him. This is not good to lose a sensei at a sensei's party. So we look all around the Hombo, and we find out that he's actually sat in the kitchen, the sensei's kitchen, and he sat there on his own watching old VHS clips of Kansho Gozo Shioda at a party. Now, to me, that is a guy who is dedicated. That is a guy who is extreme at what he believes in and what his mission is in life. And I had massive respect for that. I know he gets a bad press. He's had a bad press, I think, maybe recently. I don't get into all that politics of the Yoshinkan, but I know there are politics. But all I can talk about is my experience of him, how he treated me, how he treated the Kokusai, the international students. I found him very gracious, very skilled, and very dedicated. And to me, that's impressive, very impressive.
Perfect, good. Yeah, that was the one that I was going to mention as well. I think that just showed the level of dedication, isn't it? Of just, I watching that. He was known as a bit of a breaker, though, of like the bone setter, and just, very difficult. So what's your thoughts on that? Because in the relationship of Aikido, you've got the shite and you've got the okey.
Yes.
And in a way, the okey is kind of at the mercy of the shite, because you give your body to them and you kind of go, all right, well, I'm going to attack you. And it's ritualized in a way, because it's not a fight, it's a demonstration, and you go, okay, well, I'm going to attack you at this point, in this way, at this time, you know what's coming.
Yeah.
And yet still certain individuals, and I've been on the end of it before, and I'm sure you've been on the end of it before.
I definitely have, I definitely have.
Will take liberties with that and crank something a little bit harder, or do something that's just a bit of a dick move sometimes. And it's like, okay. So what's your thoughts on that? And did you experience, I'm sure you did experience it during Senshusei.
We experienced it a lot with the Ippan students. So we would find that, and I talk about this as well. I'll stop saying that. It's all in the book. I'm not trying to sell the book, but it is all in the book. We would find that when we went on the summer camps, or when we spent time in the Saturday morning classes where we shared a class with the regular students, that they would sometimes try and take liberties with us. And whether it was kind of this badge of honor, hey, I cranked it on a bit hard with the Senshusei, or they just thought we could take it. From my perspective, that wasn't okay. And we formed this very, very close, like, band of brothers and one sister. There was 12 guys, one girl. We formed this tight unit. If anyone messed with any of us, we would seek and destroy and make sure.
Send in
Lloyd or Ronan, send in either of those two. We would seek and destroy and make sure that student knew that taking liberties wasn't, because bearing in mind my background, where I come from, I got bullied at school. I don't like bullies, and if somebody bullies somebody else, then we're going to put it right. So we did that. We were a very, very tight unit. But to answer your question about the shite-okey relationship, coming from a striking background, I always found that quite difficult to get my head around. And To be honest, have I got my head around it to this day? I'm not 100% sure. Aikido is a dangerous martial art in the wrong hands. And the shite-okay relationship, in my view, is about practicing the techniques in a controlled manner to understand somebody else's body mechanics, so you can then take your understanding to apply that technique properly if you needed to do that. But I did see instances where, you know, for example, there's one instance where I was okay for shite. I'm not going to mention who it is, but I was okay. And I'm running in with a Shomanuchi strike, an overhead strike, or was a Yokum strike, one or the other. And the shite just chops me across the side of the head, you know, here. And I'm like, well, hang on a minute, mate. You know, if we're going to play that game, I've got some Muay Thai I can pull out the back. And trust me, I'm very happy to do it. So for me, that was overstepping the mark.
Sure.
But you've got to feel the technique. You've got to experience what the technique feels when it's put on properly. And for me, and this is in Aikido and also in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu now, I learn most as okay.
Yeah.
Because you feel the sensei's or the instructor's technique. So I always want to be okay, but not when people take liberties.
Yeah, definitely. That passed down as well then. So we'll talk a little bit about the Sewanin.
The Sewanin, yeah.
Sewanin, yeah.
Yes.
And you've had your ups and downs with them. It's in the book. There was two. So it was Graham and Malik.
Malik, yes.
Yep.
Yes.
And Malik especially was a bit of a rocky road.
They were kind of like good cop, bad cop.
Right.
Yeah, they were like good. And I've been in touch with both of them since basically what happened. I wrote the book and then I contacted everybody and said, hey, I've written a book, which has given them an opportunity to come back to me and talk to me about stuff. And both of them have been very, very gracious. Looking back on it now, they had a job to do. Yeah. And I say this right at the end of the book, despite whatever I say about the Sewanin, they did, and it happened because I wrote it down. So I know. Yeah. But why did they do it is the more important thing. And if I'd have gone and done that course and there was no hardship, there was no struggle, I'd have got to the end of the course and I'd be Senshusei, but I wouldn't have experienced what it meant to be Senshusei. So although we had our ups and downs and they kind of changed places partway through the course, the good became bad and the bad became good to a certain extent. Sure. I have a huge amount of positive feeling towards both of them. And always will. And I probably did when I was there, but when you're in the thick of it, you don't always think that way. Sure. But they made that year, and the people I was with made that year, and they had a job to do, and they did it. I mean, they did it well. Let's just say that. They did some stupid stuff, but you know, I was learning to be a Senshusei while they were learning to be Sewanin. We're all learning. We're just at different stages of the journey.
Yeah, fantastic. Let's talk about post Senshusei course then. So you stayed in Japan for a little while after. Is that correct?
Yes, I did, yeah.
Why was there? Did you want to just see it off, or?
I wanted to see what Japan was like without having to get up at 5:20 in the morning and go to the dojo. And I went and did some of the Ippan classes at the Hombu, but it wasn't quite the same. I used to turn up to the Chinos classes more often than not, but it wasn't quite the same. While I was on the course, I was doing something I shouldn't be doing, because Senshusei basically means one focus or specialist. And we were told you shouldn't train in other martial arts, but because I'd got my background in Muay Thai, I was training at Fairtex in Tokyo. I was also training at Axis Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I spent most of that 3 or 4 months that I stayed doing Muay Thai and mainly Axis Jiu-Jitsu to try and improve my Jiu-Jitsu skills. But then I went to Australia. The plan was to emigrate to Australia. In fact, the plan originally was only ever to go to Japan, probably for a few months on the way to Australia.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Yeah.
But I got so immersed in Japanese culture and the way of life that I wanted to stay. Got to Australia, lovely country. Trained under Sensei Joe for a bit down there. Did some Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu down there, some Muay Thai down there. But I kind of missed home. And this is going to sound very strange, but there felt like there was a real reason to be in Japan because it was so different. Yeah. When I was in Australia, it felt like, well, it looked like, apart from they got the sun, we haven't. It looked like England, except it was England at the age of 35 that my friends weren't there. and I missed them. So I ended up coming back to the UK. I can't emphasize enough and mention enough. And I talk about this in quite a lot of detail. When you do that Senshusei thing and you do it for 11 months and suddenly it stops, that void in your life that it leaves, you think while you're on the course, you want that void. But when you get it, all you want is to be back there.
Back in it, yeah.
You want to be back in the game. And one of the last chapters in the book is called Bittersweet. And we shouldn't talk about what's in that chapter, but it's a very moving, heartfelt chapter. And you've read it, you know what's in it. And that was like, it makes me quite emotional thinking about that chapter for what's in it, and the things that happened and how we all went off in our different directions. So yeah, it left a massive void. And to be honest, mate, I was lost. I'm a 35-year-old man, lost. Mentally strong, physically strong. Didn't know what I was doing. Didn't know where I fitted. Didn't know what I wanted to do. And through trial and error, I eventually got myself back on track. But I would say I was in the wilderness for like 3 or 4 years after that course. Probably similar to people coming out of the army, people who've had a boxing career, who suddenly retire. They don't know what to do or where to put their energies. I felt very much like that.
What do you think the Senshusei course has given you now then, looking back after writing the book and things like that? What's it given you that you think you couldn't have got from training maybe at somewhere else, or training in a different way, or training in anything really?
I think it's the defining moment of my life. I think it's the one thing I will look back on that I can say, wow, what an experience that was. What's it given me? It's given me a way of thinking and being that I think is quite different from other people, apart from my other Senshusei people, because I push forward in life now. I don't see obstacles. I don't whinge. I don't whine. I just either do something or I don't. And I think we all face challenges in life. We're all going to get challenged. We're in a challenge now, right now, with coronavirus. But it's how you decide you're going to turn up and meet those challenges. And Senshusei prepares you, I think, for any challenge life can throw at you. It makes you mentally strong. It gives you the resilience and the belief in yourself, because you've been through something so difficult that you can get through anything. And that's important. The other thing it's given me is an incredible brotherhood of people that I met on the other side of the world from all over the place. And you know, for example, since giving you the proof copy of the book to have a look at, I've had back and forth conversations on a daily basis with Ronan, who was one of my closest friends on the course. I never would have met him. He's from Israel. He came into Tokyo. We became really good friends. I would never have had that connection with different people from different places in the world. And 13 years after I've spoke to some of these people, we are back in touch now like it was yesterday. It's amazing.
Oh, very cool. Why did you stop Aikido then? Because you're not training in it now. You've gone to jiu-jitsu now. You've gone to BJJ. So why stop after this 11 months of hardship and doing this thing at the Hombu, which is the Mecca for Yoshinkan Aikido practitioners?
It is.
And then the Senshusei course, which is, you know, probably the top, the top level of respect probably in the Yoshinkan as well, in terms of if you're a student. If you complete that, it's, you know, a good mark of respect. You come back and now you do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
It's a good question. And I have thought long and hard about this, because I knew you were going to ask me this, and I have thought long and hard about it over the years. And I think the answer to your question is this: when you've had the highest high, anything else that doesn't get you to that highest high is not quite the same. And since the course, I trained with some fantastic teachers, learned some incredible things in Aikido, but I can never quite recreate the high of what it was to be in Japan on the mats at the Hombu Dojo. So that's one reason. The second reason is Aikido, I don't believe is that good for your body in the long term. In our particular year, we had a class called Zagaku, which is, it basically means sit and learn. And we did this every week. And this was a 30, 40-minute Seiza class. Now, I know you've sat in Seiza, and hopefully, well, I'm not going to say hopefully, I'm sure other people watching this have sat in Seiza. But we would sit in Seiza to the point where your legs fell asleep. The pain. I've seen, you know, my colleagues crying on the course in pain from the pain in their legs. And the course did do irreparable damage, I think, to at least one of my knees.
Yeah.
And training back in the UK, what I was finding is I still wanted to train with the same intensity of Senshusei, but I couldn't get to my feet as fast.
Sure. I
would have to spend a day recovering afterwards. And I thought, long term, Aikido is not good for my body. I got what I wanted from Aikido, I think, which is this. Yeah. Mental strength and understanding of body mechanics. Yeah. Jiu-jitsu is much kinder on my body. Okay. So I think I can do that until the day I die, hopefully. But I don't think I could say the same for Aikido.
Fair enough. Brilliant. So when is the book out then, Simon? Tell us.
So the book is out.
Officially speak about the book now.
There you go. Officially. That's the proof copy. So the book is out on the 1st of July. It's available to pre-order now on amazon.co.uk. It is just in the final throes of edits. The version that you've seen, I will send you a new version. Your version is probably about 85% of what it's going to be. There's various bits being added and fine-tuned. But it'll be out on the 1st of July, Amazon worldwide. Very excited to see the response. Are people gonna relate to it? I hope so. Are people in Aikido going to be interested in it? I hope so. I got my wife's friend to read it. She's nearly through it, and she's never done martial arts in her life. And she phoned us up last night. She said, I'm really enjoying it because, yes, it is set in a martial arts school, but it's about so much more than that. And what I wanted to do, and if you look at the cover, what I wanted to do, it's not called, Senshusei Course. It's got a picture of me with a black belt. That's the only clue. It's about martial arts. It's a true story about the courage to stand up, keep going, and never give in. And that, to me, was what Senshusei was all about. So 1st of July, unless you want to pre-order.
Cool. Yeah, fantastic. So thank you very, very much for speaking to us.
My pleasure. Enjoyed it.
I'll highly recommend the book. As I said, I finished it in a couple of days. So yeah, it hooks you in. It's very good.
You're a fast reader. That's 166,000 words there. You've done well. You've done well.
Yeah, it was very good. So yeah, thank you very much, Simon. All right.
Perfect. Cool. Thanks, Dan.
Take care.
Take care.
You. Bye.
Bye-bye.